A lot of lawyers really fear taking a career break because they think it's going to harm their reputation.
I just want to dispel the notion of you can't get back into law. Law firm culture is so entrenched in the medieval century.
That's where we start getting into a debate, isn't it?
It's becoming less taboo. Big firm, no. They're going to be like, get the F out of here.
The reality is, many firms do not think like that.
Make good money, live the dream. No, they don't want that going into their work culture. Stop allowing me to dig myself deeper.
Before you start offending the whole audience. Taking a career break won't ruin you, but staying miserable might. Lawyers panic about stepping away. The fear that a career break means career suicide, that law firms will blacklist you, that you'll never make it back. But here's the truth, that mindset is outdated. The real risk isn't taking a break, it's burning out in a system that tells you survival is success. Today I'm sitting down with Brian Dixon, digital nomad lawyer and fractional general counsel. He offers tailored legal solutions to digital nomads and remote-first companies whilst living in Bali. We discuss this topic. Is it taboo to take a career break in law, or could it be your competitive advantage? Brian, I'm so glad we're back doing this.
It's been a while. I thought I got kicked off, I thought Brian was banned.
Brian's banned because he swears too much.
I know it's bad though, where I start meeting new people and I'm like, listen, within the first 5 minutes, hey, I don't know if you offend easily, but I do swear a lot, so I apologize in advance.
I remember you saying that to me. You gave me that talk when we met.
Well, the problem is, right, I never know with English people. Are you proper English or are you cool English, right? And so
What? What do you mean? Please distinguish between the two.
I think posh, right? If we can define
Yeah.
posh. I won't get into that, but I don't think I would be dropping nonstop F-bombs around somebody who's a bit more posh.
I think, isn't it just like an older generation thing?
I think so.
Because I think posh people swear more.
Fair. But we don't know this coming from the US, right? Because we're just ignorant about other cultures.
Oh, that's so funny. So you've just literally made a stereotype there being like, look, are you proper English or are you cool English? Look, I don't care because I'm going to swear anyway. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So funny. Right, I'll
I think
dive
I'm too
into
comfortable with you, Holly.
way too comfortable.
Stop allowing me to dig myself deeper.
Before you start offending the whole audience.
I apologize to all barristers.
So a lot of lawyers really fear taking a career break because they think it's going to harm their reputation. They're going to lose that prestige, and people are probably going to turn around and be like, what are you doing? You've got such a great career. You can't just suddenly leave and take a break. And I guess other factors come into play as well. But what are your views on stepping away from a legal career for a period of time?
I think it's the greatest thing that you can do. First of all, I just want to dispel the notion of you can't get back into law. There's so many use cases, examples, whatever you want to say, of people who have stepped away from law. They've maybe just not worked. They've maybe tried different careers, and then they end up back in law, right? A law degree and the way that it trains you to think stays with you for your entire life. And law firms know that. They might have questions. You might have to have a little bit more of an in-depth conversation, but I can't foresee a situation where if you want to get back into law, you will find zero law firms or in-house departments or whatever position it is that wouldn't want to hire you.
Do you reckon?
I reckon. I also think it goes to this. If you're the person who wants to take a career break, then the person and the law firm that refuses to hire you because of the career break isn't the place that you want to go back and work for anyways. It goes back to what I tell potential clients. You can't care where I'm located because if they care, we're not going to be a good culture fit anyways. If you are a lawyer that has the open-mindedness to take a step away from your career Go and explore other things, whether it's just a true break in work or different jobs. The law firm that holds it against you is not going to support the type of person that you are.
I definitely agree with that for sure. But I think that's where we start getting into a debate, isn't it? Because if you think about it, you've got people who live by that type of lifestyle in terms of they feel a bit more free, they're okay to step outside of these not only societal but also legal cultural norms and be like, you know what, I'm just gonna take a year off or a few months off or whatever. You've got these people who think like that and are okay with these types of decisions. And then you've got the people who think, I cannot possibly do that because I work in, for example, big law or an environment where that is not the norm. So you've got this conflict. And I do agree that if you're that type of person who wants to be free and live in the way that they want and carve their own path to an extent and work in law, then yes, finding those types of firms who see the benefits in having a career break
Yeah.
is brilliant. However, the reality is many firms do not think like that.
No, but then it goes towards what does the lawyer really want? Do they want and need that prestige? Do they need to say, I work at X, Y, and Z firm that's, in New York City or Magic Circle in London? Is it the prestige that they're after, or is it the balanced life, the healthier version of life, quote unquote? And I think the people who struggle with taking a career break that are in big law, they need to answer that question first. They need to say, what is it that I want out of life first? Because if it is the big name law firm, if it's that to keep their partner track, which I want to say, like, there's nothing wrong with that if that's what makes you happy, right? Like, I'm not bashing that path. It's just not for me. But if that's for you, then yeah, maybe a career break is a scary proposition. And so that's something that they need to weigh and get clarity on first, and then you can start talking about career break.
It's a good point. But I think also there are so many lawyers who say to me, and also probably think as well, oh, I would love to be able to travel and work or take a year out and just become a digital nomad and get my own clients for a bit and then maybe go back to a firm or whatever. But the culture around this, and I do believe it is changing now because there are becoming more people who become legal consultants, work in a
Yeah.
non-traditional way. You know, I talk with a lot of them on this podcast, and you're one of them, a digital nomad lawyer. It's becoming more, I would say, accepted or common now, but it's still not that common.
It's becoming less taboo, I
Yeah.
think is a better way to put it. I don't know if it's becoming more accepted, but it's becoming less judged and less taboo to talk about. It's definitely a shift in the right direction, but I still think there's a little bit to go. I definitely get the concern. I mean, I get it, right? Like taking that year break, going out and doing your own consultancy, it's a huge risk. But again, I think especially if you're going out on your own, you're handling clients on your own, those skills that you gain, if it doesn't work out for you, you say, hey, this isn't for me, but you can go back to a law firm and say, listen, I know what it's like to run a law firm. I know what it's like to handle client accounts from A to Z, not just a client comes in the door, you're handed the file, and then you pick up the relationship. You know how to cultivate that relationship now. You know how to communicate fully with the client, right? Like these are all the soft skills that you don't necessarily learn as intensely as an associate somewhere. I think you go back to any law firm and say, this is what I've learned. I've grown so much. Plus, I was able to dive deeper into my legal knowledge. I, I just don't see the average law firm holding that against you.
I don't know. I feel like we need someone else here to tell us, but I can't imagine even a big firm in New York or London being like, oh, cool, you were a digital nomad lawyer for a year and that's on your CV. Because I'm going to be controversial now, because do they really want someone coming into their firm who thinks slightly differently? I'm not sure.
No, they don't. But you said big firm. Okay, now I'm going to get very lawyer here, right? Like I was
Oh no, I don't like it when you do this.
big firm, no. They're gonna be like, get the F out of here, right? They don't want somebody coming in and saying to all their associates working 100 hours a week, go hang out, work 30 hours a week, make good money, and live the dream. No, they don't want that going into their work culture. I agree. The average firm, right? Not the big magic circle law firm, but the average firm, I think, would see that at least not as a negative.
Yeah, the average firm, like we're talking medium size or small firms, would see that as a positive for sure because they see entrepreneurial, which it is entrepreneurial at the end of the day. Being entrepreneurial is important and it's a good contributing factor to their firms.
And I think too, like one of the an attribute that really good lawyers have is having a decent threshold for risk. So many lawyers fear risk, but I think the ones that can lean into it, right, the ones that are willing to take the calculated chance, those are the ones that gain the advantage, right? And so a law firm sitting there and saying, well, this person, they took a massive risk. They bet on themselves. Right? Like that's only an advantage to their clients.
Absolutely. And I think it would make them more competitive as a firm because if they've got these, different factors, not only entrepreneurial mindset, but the fact that you can think for yourself, use your initiative a bit more, you have a different type of risk tolerance, emotional intelligence, cultural
Yeah.
awareness. These are all really important factors that would be brilliant within a law firm. And I don't see why the bigger firms wouldn't necessarily. Well, I know why they wouldn't, but I can't see why they couldn't take that.
I agree. I also think too something that we're overlooking here is what is the benefit to the firm for hiring these people? Right? Like imagine you want to get back into law and you get hired by a firm and they hired you because you do things a little bit differently, right? And so then that is a different type of law firm culture. Where are you telling people to go work? When you're talking to top lawyers who are looking to change setting, you then start attracting a higher end of talent, I think, because you do things differently than the firm that they're currently at.
It's definitely a conflict. I want to
Yeah.
touch on something you said before, which is that you don't think being a digital nomad lawyer is necessarily accepted yet. Why do you think that?
Because it's not the way things have always been done. Um,
That's a Brian quote.
to be honest, right? Laws, are we light years ahead of where we were 5, 10 years ago? Whoever thought we'd see law embracing technology the way that it's been embracing technology in the last year, right? AI. But I still think law firm culture is so entrenched in the medieval century. It's hard to imagine such a polar opposite being accepted. I think it's just due to the extremes of it. Let's start with remote work first and then get to digital nomading. Let's start with full time work from home before we even start broaching the topic of, hey, like my entire law firm is spread all over the world. I think it's just the extreme of it. It's too much for the people who are partners to handle right now, right? Like, think about it. Partners are what, 50, 60 years old? Their generation was learning how to use computers in their career.
Do you think what might be part of that is the fact that that generation went through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get to where they are now, and they're like, no, I wasn't allowed to do that, so you are not allowed to do that.
Yeah, I'll never forget during my short stint in a law firm, I was told basically, you have to do this because I had to do this. I just was sitting there being like, that makes no sense. I just don't understand that mentality. Like, okay, if it makes sense, if there's still shows that like there's merit in it, if it makes you a better person, a better lawyer, leads to a better work product, okay. But when it's literally just done because they had to go through it or because they did it or you can't do this because they weren't allowed to do that, then it just doesn't make sense.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it doesn't. It doesn't, and it's just going to end up causing conflict. I think within firms, especially with, like, we were talking with about the topic of Gen Z lawyers
Yeah.
with a Gen Z lawyer. And it was such an interesting conversation because, I mean, me and you are millennials and we work in a different way and had a different experience in our legal careers than Gen Z do. They work in such a way that's like, if they don't know the answer to something, they literally use their initiative and go to YouTube or
Yeah.
a podcast or AI or whatever. Whereas for us, it was like, if it's not in a book or if it's not on the database, I didn't even I rarely went to even Google, to be honest with you. Like you'd go to like a case law database or something, you know?
No, that's fair. I'm very similar, right? Like when I was working at the law firm, I don't think I used Google once. I don't think I used YouTube once. I just went to our Westlaw subscription.
Uh,
Or I would walk into one of the partners' office and ask a question, and I'd be like, "Hey, can you grab me that book from the bookshelf? I've got it like noted somewhere." Really? But I think the question is, Holly, are enough young lawyers willing to turn down jobs because of work culture? Because if you have people continuing to take jobs, right, and continuing to be ingrained in a certain way of doing things, yeah, over time it's going to gradually change, right? But if we're talking about effective short term change and overhaul of the law culture, you need people to literally not work because of the law culture.
yeah.
You need a mass amount of people doing what you and I did and saying, well, we're going to find an alternative path.
I can't see that anytime soon. I can see a lot of people going into the consultancy model.
Agreed.
Yeah,
But
but nothing extreme.
that's later on down the line, right? Like imagine, especially for Americans coming out with all the debt, right? Are you going to sit there and say, no, I'm going to go and try and build my own book of business right out of law school with $100,000 to $200,000 worth of debt, or are you taking the
Mm.
job that provides you a steady paycheck?
Yeah, it's a good point, actually.
There's realities to this that I'm not. Yeah, I live a different life, and yeah, I'm a huge proponent of a different life, but I'm also understanding, right? Like average law student in America, they start law school when they're 28, 29, 3 years, early 30s. You're coming out with six-figure debt. What are you doing? And now we're getting into a whole different issue.
I think then if we're going to like if we're talking about culture and well-being of lawyers, does go right back to graduating in law school and coming out thinking, okay, I've spent so much time getting to where I've got to. I've got loads of debt.
Yeah.
Now I need to actually find a job that works, and other options become likely less available because they're kind of stuck in this situation, which, I was also, because it's hard to
Yeah.
get out of once you get that job and you've now got responsibilities and you're relying on that income, etc., etc.
Mhm.
It's really hard to break free of that and be like, I'm going to purposely find a different path. And not many people do it.
No, and it's nice to sit there and dream about, but I think too many people stop at that and don't even explore it. If lawyers, and we're amazing at research, right? Look into it, talk to people who have done it, and you will find that, yeah, maybe the first year's lean, maybe the first 2 years are lean, but eventually you'll start replacing that income. And then you can also live a life that has lower costs. That, right? Like, so then your margins are growing. And so then you're netting the same. It comes down to the type of personality you are and whether or not you are okay with swallowing risk, right? Because whether or not you have debt or whether or not you're going to make it work from a financial standpoint, whatever your concerns are, if you're a person that's anti-risk, like you're just not taking that jump. You're going the comfy route. And again, nothing wrong with it. Understand and know who you are as a person. But if you can tolerate a little bit of risk, I think it's a no-brainer.
If you've ever wondered how to build a legal career that fits your lifestyle and values, I've created something for you. 25 Ways to Do Law Differently and Get Paid for It is a free guide filled with simple yet impactful ideas for lawyers who want more freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment in their work. Just go to the description where you'll find the link.